Right now at 11, murder charges in the death of Kada Scott. The man suspected of kidnapping her is now accused of killing her. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jacqueline London.
And I'm Fred Shropshire. While investigators have not yet revealed how she died, we are learning more about the conversations leading up to her death. It's been a long month for the Scott family. Scott was reported missing after she vanished 18 days ago during her overnight shift at a nursing home in Northeast Philadelphia.
This is a story of Kada Scott. On October 4th, 2025, 23-year-old Kada Scott reported for her night shift at a nursing home in Chestnut Hill, Philadelphia. Security footage confirmed her arrival at approximately 9:58 p.m. At 10:12 p.m., she stepped outside to take a phone call. A co-worker observed her speaking briefly, appearing focused, before walking toward the parking area. She did not return. By the following morning, Kada had not clocked out of her shift. Her vehicle was missing from the lot. Calls to her phone went unanswered, and her digital activity ceased after 10:17 p.m. Family members filed a missing person report later that day. The case was transferred to the homicide unit after initial searches produced no leads. Detectives obtained phone and surveillance data showing her device last active near East Germantown, several miles from her workplace. Video evidence later showed a vehicle matching the description of a car owned by King, a 21-year-old male from Delaware with a prior record involving kidnapping and assault. On October 18, 2025, police located human remains buried behind the abandoned Ada H. Lewis Middle School in East Germantown. Forensic testing confirmed the remains belonged to Kada Scott. Investigators linked King to the crime through digital data, vehicle tracking, and forensic samples. He was arrested without resistance and charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, robbery, abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, and conspiracy. The evidence indicated Kada Scott was abducted shortly after leaving her workplace and killed within hours of her disappearance. Surveillance footage captured two individuals at the burial site, suggesting an additional suspect. The investigation remains ongoing. Before we dive into today's story, we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And how do you feel as the story unfolds? Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked, the show where we expose the shocking crimes that rip through communities and the chilling secrets lurking behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the gripping story that's coming up. Now let's dive in.
And the very next day, police searched near an abandoned school. There was no sign of Kada Scott in that area. A tip led police back to that same area 4 days later, and that's when Scott's body was found. Then King faced another round of charges. That brings us to this afternoon when police announced a third set of charges against King. He is facing about 20 charges in all, including murder, abuse of a corpse, arson, stalking, and robbery.
The investigation is far from over. Court documents give us a closer look at the last text messages leading up to her disappearance and death. NBC 10's Shair Arias is live in Germantown, where the city hosted a safety meeting blocks away from where Scott's body was found. What did they say about the case, Shair?
Fred, great question, because the first thing that Mayor Sherelle Parker said was that she was not going to get into the investigation or give details about the investigation of Kada Scott. But what we are able to see with these court documents was that last conversation, what Kada was saying to King that night that she disappeared.
It's heartbreaking for what happened to Jada and her family.
Kathy Warsinger was one of the many people who lives in Germantown to show up to Wednesday night's Community Safety Town Hall meeting. The same community that continues to grapple with the trauma of recently losing one of their own, 23-year-old Kada Scott.
This was someone that we all, in some way or another, connected to.
Investigators say King texted Kada letting her know he had a new number. Kada asked who it was. King then replied, Kel, as the two made plans to meet up. That same night, Kada wrote, "Kidnap me again." King replied, "Better be up to." Officials say their last exchange was at 10:09 when Kada texted King to call her when he arrived.
Kada Scott was born and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Public records confirm she spent most of her life within the city's northwest region, attending local public schools through her early education. Former classmates described her as ambitious and highly organized. She maintained a structured lifestyle even as a teenager and was known to focus on her responsibilities. School administrators recalled she participated in extracurricular activities and occasionally assisted in community-based youth programs. There are no official records indicating prior issues with law enforcement or behavioral concerns during her school years. Documentation shows she completed high school and later pursued employment within the healthcare sector, focusing on elderly care. Her early background presented a stable foundation prior to events leading to her disappearance and subsequent death. At the time of her disappearance, Kada was employed at an assisted living facility located in Chestnut Hill, Philadelphia. Employment files and co-worker testimonies identified her as a dependable and punctual staff member. She regularly worked overnight shifts, which began at 10 p.m. and ended around 6 a.m. Her duties included patient assistance, chart documentation, and routine health checks for residents under her supervision. Supervisors confirmed that she maintained good attendance and was not under any disciplinary action. Her role at the facility was valued due to her consistency and professional conduct. Surveillance and clock-in data verify her routine of arriving slightly early before her scheduled shifts, a pattern observed up to night she went missing. In addition to her professional life, Kada Scott was publicly active. She participated in the 2023 Miss Pennsylvania USA pageant, representing Philadelphia County. While she did not place as a finalist, her participation gained minor regional attention. Social media activity from that period showed her increasing engagement in modeling-related posts and fitness promotion. Accounts associated with her name displayed a focus on health, self-improvement, and lifestyle content. Analysis of her online activity shows no indication of illegal or suspicious behavior. However, her visibility on public platforms may have contributed to her recognition by individuals outside her immediate circle, a detail investigators later considered relevant when determining how she came into contact with the suspect. Kada maintained a steady schedule. Her work pattern was fixed around overnight shifts, with daytime hours reserved for rest and personal errands. She drove a silver SUV, which police records later identified as a vehicle of interest in her case. License plate registration matched her name, and traffic cameras captured this vehicle multiple times during the evening of her disappearance. Her habits appeared consistent. Minimal nightlife activity, regular commute between home and work, and occasional gym visits. There were no known substance abuse concerns or criminal associations. She lived alone, and according to those close to her, valued privacy outside of work. In the weeks leading to October 4th, Kada mentioned to a few friends that she had been receiving persistent, harassing phone calls. The calls reportedly came from a male individual she referred to as someone she once knew. The exact nature of their prior association was unclear. Friends later told detectives that Kada had expressed irritation about the frequency of these calls, describing them as disruptive. Despite this, there is no record of her filing a formal police complaint or restraining order. No report was submitted to her employer either. Investigators later confirmed their phone logs supported the existence of repeated contact attempts from a specific number, later traced to the suspect, Kian King. Kada arrived at her workplace in Chestnut Hill at approximately 10 p.m., in line with her usual schedule. Security footage and attendance logs confirm her clock-in time. At around 10:05 p.m., co-workers reported seeing her step outside the facility to take a phone call. Witnesses stated she appeared visibly upset. One employee recalled hearing her say, "I can't believe you're calling me about this." She was seen standing near her parked silver SUV at that time. This was the last confirmed visual sighting of her alive. Surveillance footage captured her briefly outside before stepping out of camera's view. Between 10:15 p.m. and 10:30 p.m., the facility security cameras showed no further movement involving her. Her vehicle was later found missing from the parking area. From that point forward, all her phone activity ceased. No calls, text messages, or social media interactions were recorded. By 6 a.m., Kada had failed to clock out of her shift. Co-workers initially assumed she had left early, though that was inconsistent with her established routine. When morning staff arrived and noticed her vehicle was missing, management attempted to contact her via phone with no success. Family members became aware of her disappearance later that afternoon, when she failed to respond to messages and did not return home. At approximately 3:45 p.m., they filed an official missing person report with the Philadelphia Police Department. The case was classified as endangered missing due to her sudden disappearance, lack of communication, and the abnormal cessation of her digital activity. Police initiated welfare checks at both her home and workplace. Nothing at her residence indicated forced entry or struggle. Investigators began tracing her phone location, which last pinged in the Germantown area of Philadelphia, several miles from the assisted living facility. The Philadelphia Police Department's homicide unit joined the case shortly after due to concerning patterns, including missing vehicle data and phone inactivity. Search teams canvassed the area using K-9 units and aerial drones, but found no immediate evidence of her whereabouts. Investigators questioned staff and management at the assisted living facility. Several co-workers reported seeing Kada upset during her last phone call. One colleague mentioned recognizing the caller's voice from a previous incident, identified as the same male who had previously phoned the facility and asked for Kada by name. This information was documented and used to secure phone record subpoenas. Detectives traced the call history, confirming multiple incoming calls from the same number on the evening of October 4th. Kada's silver SUV remained unaccounted for in the first 48 hours of investigation. The vehicle's license plate was entered into the National Missing Persons and Stolen Vehicle database. Detectives distributed an alert to surrounding states, including Delaware and New Jersey, in case the vehicle crossed jurisdictional lines. This step later proved important, as surveillance footage from a highway camera near Germantown captured a vehicle matching her SUV at approximately 11:08 p.m. on the night of her disappearance. As media coverage expanded, police released Kada's photo and vehicle details. Flyers circulated on social media, urging public assistance. By October 6, local news outlets had begun reporting the case, citing it as a suspicious disappearance. Law enforcement requested business owners in the Chestnut Hill and Germantown areas to submit any available security footage from October 4th to 5th. Over the following days, the investigation intensified as evidence suggested possible foul play. Detectives obtained Kada's phone records, revealing multiple contacts with a number registered to King, a 21-year-old male residing in Delaware. Further background checks showed King had prior charges earlier in 2025 for kidnapping and assault. That case had been dismissed after the alleged victim failed to appear in court. Investigators noted similarities between the past allegations and Kada's situation. Both involved claims of harassment and aggressive pursuit. Upon discovering this connection, detectives classified King as a person of interest and initiated surveillance on his known addresses and associates. Digital forensics showed that Kada and King had communicated several times in the weeks leading to her disappearance. Text message archives and social media logs reflected sporadic exchanges, though the tone and context of their conversations have not been publicly disclosed. Through interviews, detectives established that the two were acquaintances through mutual friends. The relationship appeared casual, with no record of formal employment or romantic involvement between them. Investigators concluded that King was the individual Kada spoke with during her final phone call outside her workplace. This deduction was supported by phone logs and witness accounts matching the time and duration of that call. Traffic surveillance data was examined to establish movement patterns. A vehicle registered to King, matching the description of a dark-colored sedan, was captured traveling from the Chestnut Hill area toward Germantown between 10:45 p.m. and 11:15 p.m. on October 4th. This route aligned with the approximate last known signal of Kada's phone. Cellular tower analysis confirmed both devices, Kada's and King's, were active in the same geographical area during that period. The consistency between digital data and surveillance footage positioned King as the primary suspect in the investigation. On October 18, 2025, nearly 2 weeks after Kada Scott's disappearance, Philadelphia police uncovered what would become the most critical evidence in the investigation. The discovery took place at an abandoned property known as Ada H. Lewis Middle School, located in the East Germantown area of Philadelphia. The school had been vacant for several years, its exterior covered in overgrown weeds and broken fencing. The property was often used as an illegal dumping ground, making it an unlikely place for casual visitors. For investigators, this location had not initially been on the search list. It only became significant after a detailed review of surveillance footage obtained from cameras around Germantown Avenue and adjoining streets. Police analysts reviewing the footage identified a vehicle of interest that appeared consistent with one linked to the main suspect, Kian King, previously identified through phone records as a person of interest in Kada's disappearance. The video showed two individuals unloading an object late at night behind the old-school structure. The footage timestamp matched the period immediately following Kada Scott's last known phone activity. Based on this information, detectives organized a targeted search of the abandoned school grounds. Entry was made through a side access point that had been broken open. Inside the property perimeter, officers observed areas of disturbed soil near the back section, roughly 40 yards from the collapsed gymnasium wall. A specialized forensic team was deployed to the scene. Ground-penetrating radar and trained cadaver dogs were used to survey the area. Within hours, the search led to the discovery of a shallow grave, partially concealed under branches and construction debris. Upon initial excavation, investigators uncovered human remains, along with fragments of clothing and jewelry. The scene was immediately secured. The area was taped off and additional units were called to assist. Forensic photographers documented the grave site in detail before the remains were carefully exhumed. Every recovered item was cataloged and transported under strict chain of custody procedures to the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's office. At the medical examiner's lab, forensic analysts began the process of confirming the identity of the victim. Clothing and personal belongings provided early indications that the remains could belong to Kada Scott. Among the recovered items were a silver necklace matching one Kada was known to wear to work, a wristwatch identified by family members through photographs, portions of clothing consistent with her nursing uniform. However, due to the condition of the body, scientific verification was required. Dental records were obtained from Kada Scott's personal dentist and compared with the remains. The results indicated a positive dental match. To eliminate any remaining uncertainty, DNA testing was conducted. A buccal swab from one of Kada's relatives confirmed the DNA identity beyond reasonable doubt. On October 19th, the Philadelphia Police Department officially confirmed that the remains found behind Ada H. Lewis Middle School were those of 23-year-old Kada Scott. The case, initially categorized as a missing person investigation, was immediately reclassified as a homicide. The autopsy report revealed several key findings. Kada Scott had suffered a single gunshot wound to the head, identified as a probable cause of death. The bullet trajectory indicated close-range firing. Additional physical trauma was noted, suggesting a struggle had occurred prior to the fatal wound. Forensic pathologists also recorded evidence of post-mortem tampering. Certain injuries and positioning of the body indicated that the perpetrator had attempted to conceal or alter evidence after death. These findings were consistent with the surveillance footage, suggesting that more than one person was involved in disposing of the body. The estimated time of death placed the killing within 24 hours of Kada's disappearance on the night of October 4th. This conclusion narrowed the window of investigation and provided a concrete timeline for detectives to reconstruct her final movements. Following the identification of Kada Scott's remains, law enforcement intensified their focus on Kian King, a 21-year-old male from Delaware. King had been a person of interest since the early days of the investigation due to repeated communication attempts with the victim and prior criminal records. Detectives from the Philadelphia Homicide Unit, with support from Delaware State Police, executed an operation to locate King. He was tracked to a residence in Wilmington, Delaware, believed to belong to a close associate. Surveillance confirmed his presence at the property. On October 20th, a warrant was obtained for his arrest. At approximately 6 a.m., tactical officers surrounded the residence. King was taken into custody without resistance. No weapons were discharged during the operation. After confirming his identity, authorities transported him to Philadelphia for interrogation and formal booking. Prosecutors filed the following charges against Kian King: first-degree murder, intentional killing of Kada Scott, kidnapping, unlawful abduction of the victim, robbery, theft of personal items during or after the offense, abuse of a corpse, concealment and disposal of human remains, tamper with evidence, deliberate attempts to obstruct the investigation, conspiracy, collaboration with another individual during the crime or its aftermath. Each charge reflected specific evidence gathered through the investigation, forensic testing, and digital records. The combination of homicide and conspiracy charges suggested that police had evidence of more than one participant in the crime. The case against Kian King was built on multiple layers of forensic and digital proof. Soil and vegetation samples recovered from King's vehicle matched samples from the burial site behind Ada H. Lewis Middle School. Telecommunications analysis placed King's phone within proximity of both the victim's workplace in Chestnut Hill and the Germantown burial site during the hours following Kada's disappearance. Video obtained from multiple sources showed a car matching King's vehicle moving along the route connecting the two locations. The footage also captured two individuals unloading an object near the school property at night. A work ID badge and purse items belonging to Kada Scott were recovered during the search of King's residence and vehicle. These items were identified by her family and linked through forensic fingerprint analysis. Gunshot residue detected in King's vehicle corresponded to the type of ammunition consistent with the autopsy findings. Collectively, this evidence established a direct connection between King and the sequence of events leading to Kada Scott's death. At a subsequent press briefing, Philadelphia Police Commissioner Kevin Bethel confirmed the arrest and provided an overview of the evidence. The statement emphasized that investigators had substantial proof linking King to both the disappearance and death of Kada Scott. Bethel also confirmed that the investigation remained active, citing the ongoing search for a possible accomplice visible in the surveillance footage. Authorities declined to release further details regarding the second person, citing the need to protect the integrity of the case. King was remanded into custody with no bail permitted. Using phone records, surveillance data, and forensic timestamps, investigators reconstructed a clear timeline. October 4, 2025, 10 p.m., Kada Scott began her night shift at the assisted living facility Point 10:10, 10:30 p.m. Witnesses saw her step outside to take a call. She appeared upset Point 10:30 p.m., 11:00 p.m. Phone data showed her leaving the immediate area Point 11:30 p.m. Phone signal disconnected. Last location near Germantown. October 5th early morning. Kada failed to return home. Co-workers reported her missing. October 6th to 17th, investigation tracked digital records leading to suspect King. October 18th, remains discovered at Ada H. Lewis Middle School. Evidence suggested that Kada Scott was abducted shortly after leaving work, transported by vehicle, and killed within a few hours. The burial occurred within 24 hours of the abduction. Data retrieved from mobile devices revealed persistent contact attempts by Kian King prior to the incident. Between October 3rd and October 4th, King called or messaged Kada 14 times. Many messages were unanswered. The final text from King's phone was sent approximately 20 minutes before Kada's last sighting. These communication patterns provided prosecutors with strong circumstantial evidence of pre-offense intent and fixation. Forensic testing of King's vehicle yielded significant results. Gunshot residue found on the front passenger seat and door handle. Traces of soil and organic matter identical to samples from the burial location. Hair fragments undergoing mitochondrial DNA comparison later confirmed to match Kada Scott. The GPS data extracted from the car's built-in navigation system corroborated travel from Chestnut Hill to East Germantown on the night of October 4th, precisely aligning with the case timeline. Investigators identified personal conflict as a probable motive. Interviews with acquaintances indicated King had made repeated attempts to re-establish contact with Kada, which she declined. Messages retrieved from his phone contained expressions of frustration and anger toward her. Financial motive was also reviewed after evidence suggested that some of Kada's belongings were missing following her disappearance. Although investigators have not disclosed an exact motive publicly, the combination of interpersonal tension and theft indicators pointed to a crime, driven by rejection and escalation. Surveillance recordings formed one of the most significant developments following King's arrest. In the footage reviewed by detectives, two individuals can be observed behind the abandoned school during nighttime hours on October 5th. The first individual's height, build, and clothing matched those of Kian King. The second individual remains unidentified. Authorities have enhanced and analyzed the footage frame by frame, but the secondary individual's face was obscured due to distance and lighting conditions. Detectives canvassed the area surrounding the school and interviewed local residents. Several witnesses reported unusual activity around the property on the night of October 5th, including sounds of a vehicle engine idling and voices near the rear of the structure. One witness described seeing a dark-colored SUV parked briefly near the fence line. The description aligned with the vehicle owned by King. Another resident reported hearing metal scraping and movement of heavy objects shortly after midnight. These witness statements provided additional circumstantial confirmation that multiple individuals were involved in the disposal of the body. Crime scene investigators recovered partial DNA samples and shoe impressions from the burial site. The shoe prints differed in size, indicating at least two distinct individuals. The second DNA profile did not match either Kada Scott or King. This evidence strongly supported the accomplice theory. The secondary suspect's identity has not yet been made public. Police confirmed that additional laboratory testing and cross-database comparisons are underway to establish a match. As of the most recent update, King remains in custody awaiting trial. Prosecutors are preparing a detailed case built on digital forensics, physical evidence, and witness testimony. The search for the second suspect continues, with investigators pursuing leads from phone records, vehicle data, and DNA analysis. Additional warrants have been issued for King's electronic devices and communications history. The death of Kada Scott is officially classified as homicide by gunshot wound. The case remains open, with potential additional arrests expected pending the identification of the second individual captured in surveillance footage. Following the recovery of Kada Scott's remains and the subsequent arrest of 21-year-old King, the legal process began in Philadelphia under the jurisdiction of the city's Homicide Division. The first formal step occurred with King's arraignment, where he faced multiple charges, including first-degree murder, kidnapping, abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, robbery, and conspiracy. The arraignment session was held before a magistrate judge in the Philadelphia Municipal Court. During proceedings, the prosecution presented the initial evidence summary to establish probable cause for continued detention. Based on the severity of the charges and risk of flight, bail was formally denied. King was remanded into custody without the option for release pending further hearings. At the arraignment, King appeared with his defense counsel, who entered a plea of not guilty on all counts. His legal team argued that, at that stage, there was no direct evidence proving King personally caused Scott's death. They contended that while the prosecution possessed digital and circumstantial material, none directly placed King at the crime scene at the exact moment of the killing. The defense further emphasized that the case relied heavily on location tracking and forensic correlations that, in their argument, could have alternate explanations. The prosecution countered these claims by outlining the evidence obtained during the investigation. Prosecutors detailed a combination of forensic findings, cell phone data, and surveillance imagery linking King to the sites relevant to the disappearance and burial of the victim. They explained that cell tower records placed King's device in the same area and time frame that Kada Scott's phone signal ceased. Forensic investigators located trace evidence consistent with Scott's DNA inside the suspect's vehicle. In addition, surveillance footage captured a vehicle resembling King's near the abandoned Ada H. Lewis Middle School, where the victim's body was later discovered. These combined elements, according to the prosecution, established a strong probable cause that justified continued detention and prosecution. After hearing both sides, the court set a preliminary hearing date to allow the prosecution to present more detailed forensic results currently under laboratory analysis. These include final DNA confirmations, ballistic testing, and digital extraction from recovered devices. Law enforcement confirmed that cooperation was ongoing between Philadelphia and Delaware authorities due to King's residence and arrest location in Delaware. This cross-jurisdictional coordination ensures that all evidence collected outside Pennsylvania remains admissible under federal and state evidentiary procedures. In parallel, investigators executed additional search warrants authorized by the court. These warrants targeted King's personal electronic devices, including cell phones, laptops, and storage drives, as well as any secondary properties linked to him. Digital forensic teams continue to analyze these items for deleted communications, location history, and file transfers relevant to the timeline of Scott's disappearance. As of the latest updates, Kian King remains in custody awaiting his preliminary hearing. The investigation remains active, with law enforcement agencies continuing to process digital evidence and pursue potential additional suspects identified through surveillance and forensic review. If this story gripped your heart and left you questioning the truth, don't forget to hit that like button and share it with others who need to hear it. For more chilling true crime stories that dive deep into the mysteries behind these tragedies, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest update, investigations, and thought-provoking discussions. Thank you for being part of this journey with us as we uncover the truth and seek justice. Together, we can make a difference. Stay safe, stay aware, and we'll see you in the next one.